What is going on, wonderful people? I hope you're having a phenomenal day so far. Today we got a special video in store because I am talking about my favorite black and white film stock of all time, CineStill BwXX. So CineStill BwXX is apparently the Kodak Eastman XXX film stock from once upon a time. I'm not gonna jump into all of that because there's so many other videos out there. We are going to focus on the examples that we use this amazing film stock in. So this panchromatic black and white film stock can be used at various ISOs, okay? So it is a variable ISO film, 250 under daylight, and then also 200 ISO under tungsten lighting. It can also be rated up to 1600 ISO, which we also did for this video as well. Crazy results, by the way. We're gonna jump in. Let's just start by showing you guys the results from the 200 ISO test during the daytime. We shot this film with one of our models, Nina, and the next few stocks at 200, 400, and some at 800, you're going to see with her. So let's check out some of the 200 ISO images right now. Foreground and some contrast through here.
Okay, do you want me to look at the camera or no?
No, actually, you don't have to. 2 and 1. A little overexposed. Let me get that together. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Other hand, maybe put that in your pocket. Yeah. Okay. Get this framed up. Okay. 3, 2, and 1. So just like I mentioned in previous videos, when shooting with this film stock, I absolutely love the inky blacks that this film produces. It just really gives it that whole retro vibe. I especially like the one of Nina leaning over the railing here, reaching towards the camera like I instructed her. That was a super dope shot. The wind was actually blowing like in her face a little bit, and I knew that at that point that was the one I wanted to capture. Also Nikon F5, super duper cheap with this autofocus, man. I know the camera came out in '96, but damn, it does not miss focus at all, and I love it, everything about that camera so far. But not to get distracted from the initial purpose of the video, the inky blacks, the contrast, but also, as you guys will see as we move higher up in ISO, the grain on the image. And yes, it is a variable low level ISO at 200 and 250, but again, like any film, the higher the ISO, the more grain, and this stuff still at like 200 has really pronounced like grain to it, like a rough grain to it, but it's not too much that makes it look like unbearable. It's really actually pleasing to look at, and it really adds character to the images. Let's go ahead and look at some of the 400 ISO images. So in this scenario, all I did when I popped my film roll inside of the Nikon F5, I rated the film instead of 200, I rated it at 400 ISO, and I told my film lab, Legacy Film Lab down in Texas, shout out to those goats, they are amazing at what they do. But I went ahead and rated that at 400 ISO, and then I had my film lab push it one stop here. So we're pushing it one stop, and I rated the film at 400 ISO. Nina went ahead and changed into a black dress. So you're gonna see a lot of like inky blacks and contrast with these images. So let's go ahead and take a look at these 400 ISO images. So if I put one of the BwXX 200 ISO images versus the 400 ISO image when it was pushed one stop side by side, you can kind of see the grain levels here if I zoom in just a little bit. So it's not like super crazy because again, this is 35 millimeter, but you could definitely tell that the grain is a little bit more pronounced on the 400 ISO images versus the 200. And again, that's what happens when your ISO goes up higher. When you're shooting, you do get a little bit more grain, which is totally okay because like I mentioned, it it adds a lot of character to the images, especially with this film stock. These 400 ISO images, man, like they just scream retro to me. I don't know what it is, man. Maybe it's just the nice contrast and mid-tone levels with the images here. I also see that the sun was nicely shining inside a specific section, so it really highlighted her skin, and again, the different levels between the black and the white of her skin tone and outfit, it really just complements each other really well. Alrighty, so now we're going to jump into some of the higher ISO images, meaning we're going to do 800. So I got two different 800 tests here. I got some 800 during the daytime, and then we're going to jump into some of the night portion of the shoot where we're highlighting 800 ISO as well. So when I say 800 ISO, guys, all I did was put the film inside of the camera and I rated it at 800, right? So I went ahead and manually changed it to 800 ISO on my Nikon F5, and I had my film lab go ahead and push it 2 stops, okay? So remember, we're at 200 ISO for the bare minimum of the variable ISO BwXX. I pushed it 1 stop to get to ISO 400, and then I now pushed it 2 stops to get to ISO 800. So we're gonna go ahead and check out some of these daytime shots with Nina using ISO 800 on the CineStill BwXX, and then we'll jump back in. So these daytime 800 ISO shots, very interesting. Of course, grain levels going up when the ISO goes up. So yes, I expect to see more grain, but the CineStill film stocks also do produce that halation effect. If you want to know a definition of halation, is pretty much the blooming of the highlights. Definitions on the screen right here. So, but it definitely has that halation effect that you can see on her white t-shirt. And I know, like in the Nikon F5, I use color matrix metering, so it's pretty much accurate in terms of getting the proper exposure for my shots. And yeah, the shirt is basically like bloomed. The highlights are really beaming off of that shirt here to make it look a lot brighter than what it actually is. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just something to highlight too. Pretty much all the CineStill film stocks, because of the rimjet layer being removed, you're going to get that halation on your shots. And if you're not into that, it's probably not for you, but I do love a little bit of just the halation effect on some of my images here. So we're gonna jump into the other 800 ISO portion of these images here. We shot with Mo for these images, and we were outside at night. It was pretty dark, trying to use like some of the string lights and whatnot within the area to illuminate the photos, but it wasn't really working out too well. I just knew that I was not going to have enough light, and I didn't have my tripod with me, and I was shooting handheld, so anything under, honestly, like 1/30th of a second when you're shooting handheld with film, it's pretty much going to be like shaky. So you need a tripod or a shutter release cable to compensate. So instead, I did in fact have my Aperture LS60X within the car, so I went ahead and bust that bad boy out and used some of that light to illuminate the scene as we took pictures of Mo. Now I will say, some of these images I did go a little crazy with the brightness, because Jesus Christ, some of these like just pictures were unusable, but I do have a fair share, a good amount of images that I can share with you guys here. So we'll start with these 800 ISO at night images right now. I did really enjoy the night 800 ISO images that we did shoot. Of course, the grain is a lot more pronounced. It does have a little bit more of a rougher look than some of the other images that we did see throughout the day. And of course, I had to use the external light in order to illuminate the images a little bit more so that you can actually see the photos versus just taking them in pitch black and hoping for the best. But I do love a lot of these photos here. I'm going to also now show you the results of me shooting this at 1600 ISO. So like I mentioned, that at first when I rated it at 400, I pushed it 1 stop from my film lab. When I rated this at 800, I pushed it 2 stops from my film lab. So now we're gonna follow that same math and science here, and we're gonna push this 3 stops because I am now shooting at ISO 1600. So again, I popped my new roll of BwXX within the Nikon F5. I rated it manually at 1600 ISO, and then I wrote a +3 on my film canister before I mailed it down to Legacy Photo Labs in Texas so they can push that 3 stops and give me what I'm looking for my images. And you guys take a look and let me know what you think. Okay, all right, yeah, I know what you guys are thinking. That grain, even on 35mm, is rough. I know, but I still like the image because, again, like I mentioned all the time, grain adds character to your photos. And this specific type of grain that is coming from rating this film stock at 1600 ISO really added a different look and created a different characteristic for these specific photos here. And I love them. It looks like a grungy night out with the girls and you're just enjoying yourself, and it's like, hey, let me snap a picture of you here, and you went from there. So I really like the vibe that the 1600 push 3 stops BwXX is really giving for these shots right now. So you let me know in the comments what you think of CineStill BwXX push 3 stops. I love it, honestly. It's different. I want to actually shoot some of this in the daytime at 1600 ISO. Why? I don't know. I just want to see the results, and that's okay because film is all about experimenting and creating different looks. Just to add some more photo examples using the CineStill BwXX film stock, I did in fact make a video earlier in the year shooting this film stock in studio using strobe lights. I believe for the video I metered with my digital camera, and then I went ahead and shot on my Mamiya RZ67 Pro 2 and got the shots that way, and I really liked how some of these turned out. We shot this with Kia, and if you want to check that video out, make sure you do so after finishing this one. The card is going to be somewhere on the top right hand side of the screen, but the images came out phenomenal, and it just goes to show you that you can also use this film stock with strobes and still get that awesome pronounced grain to your images. And lastly, before I forget, I did compare this to everyone's favorite Ilford HP5. Not saying I'm not a fan of HP5, but I just enjoy the CineStill BwXX a lot more. CineStill BwXX is more rough and it gives you a certain look to your images, and I feel that HP5 is just super clean, and there's nothing wrong with that, because if I want a clean, just black and white portrait, I'm probably going to use that. So I'm going to include some shots shooting the BwXX at 400 ISO, push 1 stop with the 400 ISO Ilford HP5. You guys let me know what you think of those two side by side in the comments. This is my favorite black and white film stock since shooting for about a year and some change now. I absolutely love, again, the inky blacks that this film stock produces. I love the grain structure on this film stock, and I also love just that classic old black and white Hollywood look that this film really gives off when you are done scanning your images. I just think it's a phenomenal combination altogether. If I'm going for like that retro old school Hollywood look, but in black and white, I know that this is the first film that I'm going to be picking up to try to achieve that. So good stuff all around. I hope you guys enjoyed the comparison and the photo examples. Let me know in the comments again what ISO that you guys liked this film stock rated at. Let me know if you like BwXX, or better yet, let me know what your favorite black and white film stock is. I think that's a better and easier question to answer. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you as always. Go ahead and smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, and if you're not a subscriber yet, please make sure to go ahead and click the subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming content. And to my already subscribed folks here on the channel, thank you so much. We got some awesome stuff coming. Appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.